Thank you. My name is Patricia Ofosia Cheneboa. I work with the Health Services Workers Union of Ghana, TUC, as head of Women and Gender Desk. I have my two colleagues here with me. Okay. My concern is on migration, because as a union that work with the health professionals, we have many of our nurses and midwives who migrate to the developed countries for greener pastures. And we are also affiliated to the Public Service International, PSI. The PSI have a project on women, migration and women health workers. In 2009, 3rd November, we launched a pre-decision kit on migration on women and health workers. It's an information for potential migrants who want to migrate to the developed countries for greener pastures. It provides information for them, and we are mostly concerned on ethical recruitment, so that when our people get to the developed countries, they will be able to contact the trade unions, the appropriate groups that can help them, so that they will not be exploited in other countries. So now my question is that once we've been able to provide information on the embassies that they are supposed to contact them while outside in our country, we also want to find out from you if we can network with some group like you and other appropriate groups that can also help in dialogue and negotiate with the receiving countries, so that we can get some kind of compensation for our government to cover training costs, because because it is the country's money that we use to train these professionals, and they go and give their services to the developed countries. So if we can dialogue and negotiate with the receiving countries to get some kind of compensation, so that we can train more, and if they are leaving the country will not suffer so much. Thank you very much.
I was hoping we could spend a few minutes talking about another angle to immigration and migration that we haven't spoken about yet, and especially when we talk about race and climate change in the United States. And that's, we all know in this crowd that access is very different across the world. We also know that consumption is very different in the world. But then when we look within the U.S. and consumption patterns within the U.S., we also know that the U.S. is one of the fastest growing countries, and there's a lot of misconceptions about high fertility rates in this country and in what communities that's happening. And these are often misconceptions, number one, and these are often not communities that are having the same impact on the environment as other communities. So I think it's very important in a panel that talks about race and climate change to have appropriate responses to that as well.
Hello, my name is Denisa Dimitrova, and first of all I wanted to say Happy International Women's Day. It's March 8th, and this is a national holiday in the country that I come from. I'm from Bulgaria, and we celebrate that. It's actually only 4 countries in the world, so it's a big thing. And being from a country that is in Eastern Europe and it's getting rapidly industrialized, I was wondering, we always hear that rhetoric of about the climate change, how it is addressed mainly for future generations and young people getting involved. And I was wondering, in what way do you think we should get young people, and especially young women, involved in climate change as agents of change? So I just wanted to see what your opinion was about that.
And I'll take one more. You.
My name is Regina Cornwell. I live in New York, and I'm a journalist, freelance journalist. One thing when we talk about development is something that I think needs to be reconsidered. When we think about the traditional idea of development, it's usually attached to the idea of progress. And when we think about progress, we think about the economy And we also think about technology. But I think that it's time, particularly for women, to think about how we can redefine the idea of both progress and development. What does development really mean? If we always hook it up to that traditional idea of somehow moving linearly in a forward direction, we miss the bottom line of taking care of people's social concerns and the things that women are best at doing and guiding and explaining to men, I think.
Thank you. Okay, so we just have, it's 11:33, so we're a little bit over. I think we can be okay with going for another 5-ish minutes. So I'll give it first to you to respond to the last 4 comments that you heard, or 5 comments that you heard, and then just any kind of wrap up. And then I'll go, and then we can hand the mic over to Nia to wrap it up. Okay?
We have not that much time, but I will try to answer some questions about the youth people, the young people. Of course, it is really, really very important for them to get involved in this issue, because this is a cultural challenge of all over the world. But we have to be very careful. I have three children already grown, and I am already a grandmother because my oldest son has a small girl of 3 years. And one of my my daughter, she is a teenager. And I have to take care in the house in order not to give her a pessimistic point of view. We have to bring them the optimistic side of this, especially in the Occidental. It is a challenge in the Occidental society. Young people is that used to use computers and cell phones and to change cell phones. So how will we deconstruct those meanings of happiness, of communications, relationships, how they build their circles of friendship and so on? We have to be very, very wise, we have to think to think a lot about it. And in my country, we are living a social revolution because indigenous have taken the political field and the cultural life also. And it's very, very interesting, the relationship between indigenous and urban, and the hip-hop, urban hip-hop, which is taking the indigenous languages to talk about hip-hop. And so probably one response in order to commit the young people is the cultural diversity as a very richness that we have as human beings, and that could bring some hope. And the other thing about development and that you address is of course this is a very, very important issue. I think that the traditional concept of development, sustainable development is over. We don't have to think more from that point of view, because we have to know that our development as humans has been done under the exploitation of the Mother Earth resources. So that's not sustainable. And the word sustainable has always been constructed thinking in the future generations, but not in the harmonic relationship with our environment and the Mother Earth. So that's a very, very interesting challenge. In Bolivia, we have built this concept of living well, which means that development is not endless, and that we have to look for that everybody can get a minimum access to the welfare, and not the total happiness just for a few people. So it's very deep, but we don't have enough time now to develop that.